So we'll talk a little bit about these 4 tools. And one of them you can use, Deb has used it, Quizlet, to help students study. And the other 3 are going to be primarily for you to give quizzes online, get them graded automatically, get feedback right away. So these are the 4, Quizlet, Quizbean, Schoology, and Flugaroo. Quizlet and Quizbean are their own websites. They're just for studying and quizzing. Schoology is like a huge program that's just got a ton of applications, tons of different things you can do. Chaz is doing a session on that after this one, and I would encourage you to go to that one because it's just, there's so much stuff you can do with it. But he'll just talk about the quizzing and testing part of it in here. And then Flugaroo actually uses Google Forms. So if you filled out a survey on Google, that's what it uses, and it's a script that runs through all the quizzes that your students take on forms and grades them for you. So first one we'll talk about is Quizlet. Like I said, this one is more study-oriented. It's free. You can sign in and set it up so that you have classes and students, and this is kind of what it looks like when you get in there. So I signed into my account. You can see all of your different quizzes, and you'll see this is one that I actually created. And then there's a bunch of different stuff you can do with each set of terms that you've created. So like this one is a computer quiz. You can just look at all of my terms down here. And then you've got up here a bunch of different study methods, or actually a test that you can run.
So the students can print those out too if they forgot their list at home.
Yep.
Can the students make the list themselves?
Yes, they can.
They can have their own list.
Or they can search for any that are publicly made. So I mean, if you go out there, I'm sure you'll find stuff on Romeo and Juliet, or anything that you're already doing. There's probably something out there already. So the cool thing about this is just the flashcard function. They can, I mean, it's self-explanatory. They click through. If they think they know the answer, it flips over and it's a flashcard. So they can go through all their terms this way. Again, you can set them up for them, or they can set these terms up themselves.
I would highly recommend if you do this in class, because I do this a lot with them, there's that shuffle over there. Pick the shuffle, because otherwise if they're sitting there with their list, they're all in order. So if they look like they're really smart, it's because they're reading them off the list in order.
So the next one you can do is this learn, and this will actually, you can choose to go with the term or with the definition, and they can type in the term. So then they have to type in the correct definition. And if they don't, it'll give them a little explanation.
What's this one called?
It's Quizlet.
Quizlet is the website. Oh yeah, this is all within that same website. Yep. Am I in the way?
Yeah, look, that's right. I like what
Should have grabbed that. Yeah. Okay, next one, spelling. So this one can obviously come in handy for something like what Deb is doing if you've got a foreign language, or if they just start struggling with certain vocabulary words. It'll say the word, and they need to spell it out to get it correct.
You know, I just thought of this. I hadn't thought of this before, because you have the ability that this can speak, but some of our students that need things right to them, you might be able to set stuff up on here too for the special ed students, because you can't always be there.
I'll read all the definitions.
Yep.
I don't tell them, but they'll read it.
We'll come back to the test. This scatter, these last 2 are just kind of games, and I'm sure you'd have kids who would enjoy this.
Yep.
So it times them, and they need to match up a definition with the term.
Especially the boys that are highly competitive.
So she's got a smart board in her room. She puts this up there. They go up there and compete against each other and see who can do it the fastest. And you're just clicking in right. So this last one is a race, and the term is just going to fly across the screen.
That one's too much work.
Yeah.
That one's tough.
So
You
that
gotta
one's too
spell
much
everything
work.
right.
So-
English it might be okay, but in Spanish they gotta write the right characters and all that stuff.
You need to try to type it out and get it correct before it goes to the other side of the screen. Again, a little competition type of thing.
It'll go once, it'll let it go all the way to the end, it'll stop, it'll give you the right, make you physically type in
The right answer.
the right answer the first time, and then if it goes to the end again the second time, then you're done, and you start over.
And if they get them all correct the first time through, I mean, you could have 100 terms in here, you could have 20. It'll start pushing them through faster and faster. It'll just keep going through the terms faster and faster. So we'll come back to this test. This is, like it says, you can choose whether you want written, matching, multiple choice, true, false. You can choose how many of your questions you want to be in there. So of 50, let's say you want them to study 30 of them. They can go through and take your whole test, or you can actually print a test right off of here. So if you still want to do physical printed tests, you can still set all your terms up in here, have them study off of it. Let's say you have 100 possible questions, choose 50 of them, print off your test, and then it's all randomized for you. And they've already known what to study. They've got all these terms down, theoretically, right through here, because they can use all those other tools that we just mentioned to study for them. So again, this one is more for studying. You can't print the tests off. You can't do any online grading with this one.
However, I think you can see, you have kids that sign up on yours. I don't, but some kids though I do, that have signed up, I do see certain results of what they've done. I don't know if you see that or not.
I haven't looked at it too much, I know like the results from like the games I see, is that they'll keep a running total, it doesn't matter how many times you take it, and you could be, if all of them have taken a total of 500 times and you were the slowest, they'll put you down at 500. So they kind of like, that's why they like going in that game too, I think they like to see who's ranked where off.
Yeah, I mean, it'll give you trends, I think, for the other ones too, about how they've been studying and what they're getting incorrect when they're studying. So there's some data in there.
They'll let you know which ones they're working on, if they're doing scatter, or if they're doing, if they've studied the flip card, or if they've studied whatever mode that they want. You can see who did that.
So again, this one's really nice. It's free. I think you can set up as many students or classes as you want to. There's not really any restrictions on it.
And there's an app on the phones, the iPad. There's an app through Google. So basically, on the computer, the app, basically all it does is take you to the website. It's not a big deal, but like on my phone, I have it. Instead of carrying around those physical flip cards that a lot of them do, they can do the same thing on their phone, and they just swipe or click and they'll flip over, do all that.
So again, that one was Quizlet. I'll have all these slides and everything. They're going to be up on the website if you want to go back to them afterwards and get all the links and everything in there.
There's cards out there for AP classes, so if you got AP class or math.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff
If you're
that.
studying for your graduate test or whatever, all different stuff, it's out there.
Yeah, I would definitely, even if you're not going to create any of your own, you can just go through and search what's already out there, point your students to that. Yeah. So the next one is QuizBean, and this one is geared more towards the online grading part. It is free, but it limits you to 6 quizzes and 51 students. So if you just have one class that's going to use this, you could easily manage that. Dude, seriously? What would you do to a student? All right. So with the 6 quizzes, you can just keep deleting old ones that you don't need. So the quiz limit isn't a big deal. It's just how many hours are you going to use this for? There is a paid version, but again, that's where you get over that 51 student limit.
Do you have to have your students input into that? You know what I mean? Like some sites you have to, I know I've been on one that they changed to Prairie Brush, but I had to enter all my students, and then they gave me a special code for them. You know how kids remember a code.
Yeah.
You know, so then I just thought, okay, that site's not
Well-
user friendly like Quizlet, where they can just go there.
Yeah, that's the other thing with Quizlet, they can just sign in with their Google sign in. That's how they get to all my stuff, all connections.
So here's where you, I mean, I'll talk about the other things, but since the question was asked, if you want to add students to this, you can type them in individually if you want to. You could import from like an Excel file if you've just got a big list. Or like Deb said, you could just email them this teacher code, and then they go in and register themselves, and they automatically go into your classes. So a few different options there. So with this one, I haven't made any quizzes. Again, you have that 6 quiz limit with the free version, but you can keep deleting them and go through if you want. And this is, it's really user-friendly. It's really easy to create a quiz. So first, I'll give you an example of what a quiz looks like. So when you create a quiz, you have the option of making it multiple choice or an either or. So like a true, false, yes, no, or Led Zeppelin lyric or Lord of the Rings excerpt. You can have this indicator on the side for how they're doing as they go.
You know this, the answer?
No, I'm just.
Right.
So it notifies them as they go through how they're doing on the quiz. And then at the end, you get all the stats from the quiz, you get all the grades, you can export them. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, there's not a whole lot a student could get confused about in this program. It's literally just a question, an answer, and a possible explanation after they're finished.
What if I log myself on as 2 different teachers? Could I have 102 students then?
Possibly. Yes, you
Joe
probably could get
Huber
around
1,
that
Joe
one.
Huber 2.
You're gonna need, you probably need,
Probably track your email.
you'll need a separate email if you're gonna do it that way, but that would be a way to get around it, yes.
Can I put a request in for another email?
Sure, then you probably have to regenerate the quiz, wouldn't you?
If you're using the same quiz,
Yeah.
But if you have multiple classes.
yeah.
I need 3 emails.
Well, you'll see this, we've got other alternatives to this one. I mean, this is simple if you're gonna use it with one class and a few students, but we're gonna go over Schoology and Flugaroo, and maybe those are a little better suited to you because they're a lot more flexible. There's not really any limits on what you can do with those. So again, this is really simple to take the quizzes or to create a quiz. It gives you a multiple choice or an either or, so you could do a true, false, or a multiple choice. And to the question, you could add an image, an explanation, and then you enter your answers at the bottom. And your quizzes can be as long as you want them to be. So there's no limit on how long your quizzes should be.
Can you edit the question? Edit the quiz and keep it as one of your 6?
Yeah, yeah, you can go in and edit them later. You can delete them. You can. The quiz limit isn't a big deal. I'm not worried about the 6 quizzes because really you probably only have 3 or 4 out there at once. You just delete the ones you don't need. The student limit is where you might run into problems.
I have ways to get around typing every single box for a quiz day. So if anybody needs help with that, I can show them how to do that. But this looks like there isn't any way around having to type every single thing you need to.
Yeah.
Unless you cut and paste from a current document already.
So what she's saying is if you've got 100 questions and you've already got them typed out for yourself, Quizlet, the one we looked at first, lets you import things from an Excel file, so you don't need to go back and retype everything. This one I don't think lets you import, so you would have to type things out. Or copy and paste. So that's Quiz B. Third one we'll talk about is Schoology, and like I said, it's huge. There's a ton of different stuff you can do with it. Chaz will talk about that. He's got a whole session on Schoology. Well, I'll just let him talk about the quizzes and tests now.
What Schoology is overall, it's a learning management system. So you can house your whole class in there. Everything. Quizzes, tests, questions. It's pretty user friendly. Once you get going, you just have to find out what you all want to do with it. There's just about everything you can do. As far as quizzes, tests, if you have I guess I lucked out.
You wanna log in?
I guess I lucked out and found out that my test generator, I can import all my tests into Schoology from my test generator. So any questions I make, I can put it into my test generator and then upload it in there.
What's the test generator you use?
Exam view, which is most of the textbooks I think here.
I mean, one day we went in there and Cassidy had asked him about it. He showed Cassidy how to do it in 5 minutes, and Cassidy was like, my God, it's second and quarter. Why wasn't I doing this like last year? It literally takes like 30 seconds.
Are you able to put like, pictures of maps and stuff in your text?
If I wanted to, I could. I can show you. Even in like my discussion questions and things like that, I can put pictures in. Pretty, you can import whatever you want. It's not too bad. Do this at all.
Does it remember you?
Yeah. Just hit my Google and go. I'll just show you one of the last tests I just gave to, let's do geography. Let's take it.
Troy.
Yeah, he doesn't. Troy's not great at geography.
Try just to.
Test anxiety. It's one of those students probably. Yeah.
So here is where you would name the test or quiz, whatever you want to do. And this one I imported. You can add whatever type of question you really want. Whether it's true, false, multiple choice, any kind of ordering, short answer, fill in the blank, matching. There's a lot of trial and error in the beginning to figure out how to actually make it score the way I wanted it to. But true, false, multiple choice, fill in the blank and matching, as long as you have it set up or it's done through your test generator, it's going to automatically correct it for you. Fill in the blank, that they have to be careful with, because if they're off a space or if they capitalize something or they misspell something, it's going to mark it wrong. But mine are typically only 10 questions, so I just tell them, hey, if you have the right answer but you made a minor screw up like that, just let me know and I can go in there and change the score right away. The matching, that's pretty nice, because you can always preview everything too. There's just a lot of difference.
So they go question by question. It shows them how many there are. I think you can set it so that they can't go backwards if you don't want them to.
Yeah, I'll go over.
They're doing all these in your classroom right now.
Yeah, I want them to take them in class because they just prefer them to take it in class. I mean, you can do it. My quizzes, those I typically have with my lectures or just a homework check quick. But this is what the matching would look like, just as an example. And what they do is, whenever they type in for their letter, it'll actually draw a line to their answer, so they know that which one it's going to. Now, if you have a bunch of them, like I was having up to, I think I had up to 26 one time, you got lines all over. It's a little bit hard to decipher which one's going where. But at the end, I don't know if I can do it in preview mode or not. At the end, they can review it, their whole test, so they can see if they missed anything, and if they, for the matching section.
Like if they left any blank, you mean?
Yep, if they left any blank, and for the matching, what they do for that is, they'll actually line up their answer that they put in across from. So say I had D in for number 1, D would be up here across from it.
So you can't put extra answers?
You could if you want. You can put extra ones in here,
Just won't-
as many as you want. Yep, it'll just be up at the bottom. Something when they go to review. And I try to tell some of them will still put the same letter twice, just like they would on a paper test, but they're just rushing. That's probably the biggest thing that I see. They're getting a lot better at it, but they rush through the computer test a lot. Because it's easy, there's.
Becomes like a licensed user agreement.
What's that?
Yeah, pretty much.
I agree.
Pretty much.
Need a software.
Before having taken class, do you lock that? So it
Yep.
can't be taken until you open it up and back?
Yep, that's where the settings are. Let me just check for
So
questions.
a kid couldn't log in there during study hall.
No, because I have mine set up by hour, so then they can't. I open it when I'm ready, and I lock it when I'm done. I just want to check if there's any other questions.
So it's kind of like Quizlet, where you would set up a class in Schoology. You put all your students in that class, and you could have an hour for each class. So then what he's saying is, you know, the 20 students that are in a particular class are the only ones that are going to see that class's materials. Some of your classes might be of the same subject, so he just copies stuff
It
out.
might be easier to change your questions per hour too, where when you got paper copies, you want them down in
Yep.
different copies to correct.
And here's where you import test quiz. All you have to do in the exam view, you still create your test like you would right before. Instead of printing your test off, you would have to export it, and it tells you what type you have to export it as. I export it as, I think, Blackboard 7.1. That's what one of the options are. And when you do that, then it just click the import test, find that file, it makes a zip folder, upload that folder, and it's ready to go. You can assign points, you can go on each question, even after it's up. Even after it's up in here, you can go into that question, you can change anything you want in there. So I can go change my choices, change the correct answer. You can tell it, you can change the point value. You can tell the question to mix up the answers. That's going to be more in the settings. You can have, so that's not always the same one at 1, 2, and 3 and 4 as your choices, because especially when I'm on the computers and they're sitting right next to each other, that's why I do one question at a time. And each student's gonna have probably different questions up, if I tell it to. Otherwise, it can go in that same order as well. These are just different settings. So this, you're asking, how do I lock it or anything like that? It's all in the settings. Right now, this one's available. All these students took it. But I can do available now until a certain time. Available from such a date to such a date, if you want to have them do a quiz outside of class.
And I think that's what Allie Shaneoffer does. She just puts a time block on her quizzes and says, here you go, you need to take it between these 2 times. You can do it at home, at school, wherever you have access, but it needs to be finished before the quiz locks, because otherwise you're done.
And then whenever my hour's done, or I know everybody's test is in, as you can see it, you just got to keep refreshing the page. As soon as everybody's done, I hide it, then it's gone. They won't even see the test of form. So,
Can you see each kid's test?
yep.
So you don't just get a printout or whatever, you
No.
can see what each kid has done.
And there's a lot of, Schoology, there's tons of stats you can take a look at. I'll just go through the settings here real quick. You can set it as many times as you want, unlimited, time limit. There's all those different things. Paging, one question per page, that's what I use. Page breaks, that's just where they're gonna fill out your regular paper test. Question review, that I usually put on that way. Like I said, if they missed a question, they can go back, double check before they hit the submit button. And then view submissions, there's a couple different options there. It's either no, so they can't see what they did on the test. Yes, they can see their score on the test and what they put for their answers. Or the last one, yes with correct answers. I usually just put yes because I don't want them passing that information on to the other classes.
So Chad, when or how do you share back the results with the students?
When I put the yes on there, as soon as they're done with the test, if it's multiple choice or matching and all that, the easy type of grading, they can see it instantly.
Okay, they see their score, but at any point do you come back with this and go through, like if my kids take a paper test,
Yep.
we go hand them back and we go through every single question kind of as a last chance review or a last.
If I go, I'll take a look at the test, like some of them I'll see, maybe they're missing a couple of the same, maybe they're always missing that same question. I'll go back and review that, but most of it I've been reviewing the day before, the day of. I can let them, at this test, I let them try the review again right before the test, which was very similar to the same one.
Would they have
But
an
they
option?
could.
Would they have an option? Is there an option available? Let's say, for instance, you handed them all Chromebook and you said, okay, everybody pull up their quiz at this time, and would they all be able to see it? So you could.
With their answer.
Yeah.
With the correct answers?
Yes.
Yep, I just have to click the settings. Instead of having just the yes, I could just put yes with answers,
Okay, so you'd have to-
and then they could go through their test. In the results, I can see that. You can view by,
But you said you could see what question they all were getting wrong,
Yeah.
and you might be like, oh, gee, I forgot to type a no, and then kids are picking the wrong answer because you did
That's-
something wrong.
That's kind of the powerful
right here's
thing.
the view by question. You can go through and see average 2.3 out of 3. And I can go through each of those, 2, 1.78. And I can go through that way, or I can actually go in and see each individual student's. The political science test I just gave, that was all short answer, and so they don't get a grade on that right away until I go through. I have to score each question. And I did that last night for first hour. As soon as I'm done, the score is in there. They can go and view it, and I can type in. What I usually do is I'll have my own answer key, especially for those objective questions like that. I'll copy paste and you can put a comment in by the kind of question, so they know what the correct answer was. They can see this is what you had wrong.
Chad, do you then print out your class score and then manually enter that in PowerSchool?
I'll
Just
I'll
lines
split
up
my screen.
One screen on each side.
I'll drag this to one side, and I'll have PowerSchool on this side.
Okay.
I just key it in quick.
There is a way to export from Schoology, but I think is it names need the?
I'm not sure. I think the easiest way is if we're enterprise, then you can connect PowerSchool to it, but then you're talking money.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, Schoology, like he's using it, is completely free. There is a paid version, but it's more at a district level so that the district can control the teacher accounts, the student accounts, can link our PowerSchool so that your stuff automatically gets synced up with that. But everything that he's doing is completely free.
So Schoology is primarily just for grading, though? You're not creating
No.
any tests in Schoology, or you are?
Yeah.
I can create tests right in it too. I can upload from my test generator, my textbook or whatever I want. I can do discussions, I can
Yeah, I mean, this is
have them
really
do assignments in, this is just one small part of it.
Yeah.
But here, this is Devin Barrett's test. I can go through, it's all graded. I can see what he chose for his answer, what the correct one was.
You could add a comment,
Yeah.
saying here's why it was wrong, well, here's.
And they see that feedback right away.
Is there an option where if you want to, let a student go through and make corrections? Like sometimes we do with,
The easiest way would probably be to change the settings from one time to let them take the test to 2 times or whatever, and have them do the whole thing. Or the only thing you can't really, you can print, but you have to do it from the preview, and it's not a very clean
back and say, okay, kid, I want you to do number 1, 5, and 7 over.
Yeah. Yeah. Not really. Not that I found, maybe there is, but I suppose what you could do is, I haven't used it much, is create actual test banks in there. And then you could assign what questions you want, and you just make an actual test for them, and then you would say, you could send it to that one student in particular and say, here, make corrections on these questions. For me, that seems pretty time consuming right now. Maybe it's gonna be quicker, but for right now, I'd rather just, if they make corrections, I just tell them. I printed one off the other day, I had local science make some corrections. I told them, certain kids, I knew what they were close to passing on certain things, so I told them, just do these questions that you had wrong. That'll bring you up to where you need to be. So.
All right, well, we didn't really get to Flugaroo, but he just gave like a 2-minute primer on what Flugaroo is.
Well, I'll put it this way. I started off with Flugaroo at the beginning of the year. What Flugaroo is, you're creating a form, kind of like a survey.
So you use your Google Drive. You go into your Google Drive, create a form instead of like a spreadsheet or something.
Yep. And you're limited to creating basically true, false, multiple choice questions. Maybe fill in the blank, but you have to give the options. And so again, it'd just be multiple choice again, basically. So, and then you'd have to run this script, which sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. That's the only problem with some of the Google scripts. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, when you want them to. And it ended up, for me, being an organized mess. It was getting...
Don't tell us anything that's
Yeah,
happened.
I had folders, I had folders everywhere. I thought it was going to be easy to organize. For me, it was, after I went through about 2 weeks of it, and like, there's got to be something better. And I started calling some of my friends, and I went to Schoology mainly because I have friends over at Bayport. Bayport's using it, they're making it mandatory that all the teachers are in it by the next school year.
But you guys, I mean, you used Flugaroo and then you left it on the itinerary for today, so why leave it on? What was
So to me, it depends how deeply you want to dive into this stuff. I mean, Chaz has a session on Schoology, like I mentioned. It does a whole lot more than just tests and quizzes. So if you really want to dive into it, Schoology is awesome. You're going to have the most options, you're going to have the most flexibility. If you just want to do quizzes, you've got QuizBeam, like I mentioned. That one's really simple, pretty quick and dirty, but you have that student limit. To me, Flugaroo is like QuizBeam, but you've got a little more flexibility. There's not a limit on how many quizzes or students you can put in, but it's not as clean. It takes a little more setting up on your end.
But there's no timelines, there's no order of the events.
You
This
can't
is
shuffle the
one.
questions
Yeah,
from
this-
student to student either.
Yeah, this
That's-
has by far the most options.
and for free.
This will keep your test from year to year as well.
I think so.
So,
I need it for 4 months.
I'm pretty sure if I put it in my, because what I'm doing is I'm exporting it from my test generator, so
Test generator though, so
you could probably just put it in your resources. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what the resources
Yep.
is for, is create your test banks. You put it in there, and then then it shouldn't matter if you deleted your course or not. It's in your resources. You can always pull from your resources, no matter
If you
what
had
course
it in
you're in.
Quizlet, though, you could probably export it to there, and you can make your stuff in Quizlet where it's not seen by the public at all.
Yeah, like my stuff, I shut everybody out unless they have the link to get into my class, so.
I don't want to know where that phone goes.
You can copy and paste into here though.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
if I just have a Word document test,
Yep.
I can just copy and paste it in.
I found out through trial and error how to do the fill in the blank. I thought I needed to make a nice long line, both the size of the word. Nope, one underlined word, one underlined letter. That's all it wants. And then you type your answer in.
And it'll just go with one.
if I would put, I don't know, I put 5 spaces because that was how long the word was. Well, then it was asking me to put 5 words in there for the answer. What the heck is going on? So then I got rid of it I didn't use fill in the blank at all for a long time. Now I just tell them if I use fill in the blank, because I'll usually put the choices, I tell them to highlight the choice, copy it, and paste it in there. But some kids will still get an extra space in there somehow, and then it's still wrong.
So what he's trying to say is he's done a lot of trial and error already. If you guys are interested in setting it up, he knows quite a bit about this stuff. I mean, he's been using it for 6 months. He's played around with it a ton. Cassidy's been using it a little bit. Becky's been using it a little bit. If you're interested in Schoology more, like I said, in his room, he's going to be doing a course on the whole application itself. But if you guys want to set this stuff up, I mean, obviously, they've jumped the hurdles for you.
This
You
is
just
pretty
gotta ask.
contingent on us getting access to Chromebooks or computers on a fairly regular basis, then.
If you want to use it.
Yes and no, because for him, he has computers and Chromebooks in his classroom, so he just has the students jump on a computer every day. But you could just tell him here, you know, you have this week to finish these things. They're up on Schoology, which is what Allie does, because she doesn't have computers in her room. They go and do it at home, or they do it in the library, or during study hall.
Or
You can-
somebody
there's
does.
There's an app for it on the phones, the iPads as well, and most of that stuff all works on there. The only thing that I really didn't find worked was, for sure, upload or submitting some assignments. If they needed to pull it from like their drive, their Google Drive, that it didn't play with very nice, but as far as doing discussion, no problem doing that, because then they're just texting in a message. That's what they're doing, they're used to that. And when you get into the discussion stuff, it looks a lot like Facebook. So they're used to the interface as well.
So when they're taking this test, though, this is the only thing they can get on, right?
That's all I let them on. I tell them,
Then
shut
shut
all
off
the,
to something else
yeah,
quickly.
I don't sit by my desk and just say, all right, go take the quiz, because I know what they're gonna be capable of. I know what I could do with it if I was in their circumstance. If teacher let me keep a tab open during the test, well, and some of it, they might be able to Google, other things they either know it or they don't. Internet may or may not help them, but I had some students, one student early in the year, I told them they had only the class period to take the test. She got within 5 minutes, so I can finish this later. No, like it's done at the end of the hour. It's just like any other test. Now, if they got kickoff, the other thing that I put on here is resumable. And then I did that because if they are on the Wi-Fi and they lose connection, they can just go back to that test and resume it as soon as they have connection. That's the other reason why I don't put a time on usually. But if you wanted to,